Hello, and welcome to our First Link education session for family care partners. Our education series is broken down into 4 modules, each focusing on a particular stage within the dementia journey. This is Module 3, and we'll be focusing on caring for the caregiver. In this module, we will be looking at changes in roles, identifying and reducing stress, common emotions, and understanding the importance of caring for oneself. When any kind of illness occurs within a family, the balance of the family or the unspoken roles and responsibilities of the family changes. With dementia, the progression can be slow and subtle, and the caregiver can find themselves slowly assuming more and more responsibilities without even realizing it. This role reversal can feel uncomfortable and can cause resentment for both the person receiving care and the person providing care. Role changes are not a one-time thing, rather they will be ongoing. As the illness progresses, you may have to continue taking on more and more responsibilities. When your family member moves into long-term care or community care, it is normal to feel a variety of emotions, including guilt, loneliness, grief, but also relief. There is no such thing as a normal family. All families are unique in how they manage stress and change. Some families may do better than others. Chronic illness can affect family dynamics that may have been managed well under non-stressful times. The history of family relationships will also have some effect on caregiving and how families respond to crises that occur during the chronic illness. The purpose of raising these issues is not to put blame or judgment on relationships that are strained or estranged, but merely to bring an awareness of how this will influence the new reality. Who is the person who provides support? In times of stress, we revert to doing things the old way. Family conflicts can arise when family members do not agree either to a particular change or decision, to the diagnosis, or the extent of changes displayed by the individual with dementia. It may leave you feeling very alone and isolated, unsupported, and angry. It is important to acknowledge that the roles in families are often complex, unrecognized, or unacknowledged, and that changes can be painful. This may help you feel less panicked and overwhelmed. Take initiative and control over what you can change. The division of responsibility often is not evenly shared among family members. And there are many reasons why it is difficult to divide responsibilities evenly. Geography plays a big influence. Long-established roles, responsibilities, and expectations can also play an influence. Sometimes family members fail to help because they have a hard time seeing or accepting the reality of the disease. The family's members' comfort level may vary, and this may change as the dementia progresses. Some strategies that can be helpful include having open conversation about your needs and what would be helpful. And it's important to be specific when you ask for help. Having family meetings will help facilitate communication and discuss plans and options. The family member who has difficulty visiting the person with dementia may feel more comfortable shoveling snow or cutting the grass for the primary caregiver as a way of showing support. It's important that we acknowledge the unique personalities and individual gifts of each family member. If you cannot get the help from your family, it is important to know what is available to you from outside resources, both formal and informal. Change can be slow and subtle, or change can be swift and abrupt. It is all dependent on the type of dementia and the stage of the progression. As creatures of habit, we all find security in our routine and our familiar environment. When the equilibrium is off balance because of a chronic illness, you can expect that changes will occur and have to occur before a new equilibrium can be established. These changes are a reminder that life is now different and can no longer be the same as it was before. For an individual with dementia, change can be threatening, as their ability to adapt and change may be impacted by the disease. If they agree to change, they may not be able to remember later on of that agreement as a result of the short-term memory loss experienced because of the disease. Change will be inevitable. And when we can accept that change is inevitable, we will be able to adapt more successfully. The person with dementia may continue to resist change, but it's our job to try to work things as smoothly as possible using all of our knowledge and experience so that the changes have the least impact as possible on the person. Remember, when you make the world work better for them, you make the world work better for you. Caregivers might need to seek support of others in order to gain strength and to follow through with the necessary changes. We often focus on the negative or challenging aspects of caregiving, but caregiving can bring a lot of joy and reward as well. And it's really important that we acknowledge and appreciate this. It's the chance to give back and to show love. It can provide us with a sense of accomplishment. We may not have known that we were able to do such tasks, and in the end, we were. We're able to learn new skills, knowledge, and inner strength. There's increased compassion and personal growth, and we can gain new relationships through support groups that are available through the Alzheimer's Society. And of course, we're building memories that can really help keep us going. Compared to the general population, caregivers are at a greater risk of experiencing poor physical and mental health. Research shows caregivers caring for somebody with dementia are 2 times more likely to have health-related problems than someone who's caring for a senior. In fact, more caregivers are hospitalized due to burnout and stress-related illnesses than due to worsening medical conditions. Studies also show that a caregiver's own health is an important factor influencing decisions to place an individual into a care facility. Some examples of caregivers' decreased self-care and preventable health care include sleep deprivation, poor eating habits, failure to exercise, failure to stay in bed when ill, failure to make medical appointments, and isolation. We all experience stress on a daily basis. Some situations cause more stress than others. What may seem like a challenge to one person may not be to somebody else. It is a person's perspective and response to a situation that determines if stress is good or bad. Being aware of what causes stress is really key to managing our response. For example, talking in front of a crowd can be extremely stressful for some people. Someone else may be passionate about a topic and have no problem speaking in front of everybody. Perhaps making an evening meal may not be stressful for you. However, making that same meal may be stressful for somebody else, especially if they have a deadline at work, if they're thinking about dirty laundry that won't be done by tomorrow, or if they spilled tomato sauce on their white shirt. And as a result, this may all cause somebody to have an emotional response that's quite upsetting. When you are stressed, it doesn't take much to tip the balance. The straw that breaks the camel's back, they say. are a number of factors that put caregivers at a much increased risk of poor health and well-being. Changing roles, as mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. Changing relationships. Caregivers also begin to experience changes within relationships with the person receiving care, other family members, and friends. Caregivers may also experience grief as a result of the changes within their relationship with the person with dementia. Competing demands. As care requirements increase, caregivers will more and more experience competing demands on their time. They may feel pulled between obligations to the person they provide care to, household responsibilities, their family, friends, social obligations, and their place of employment. Increasing isolation. Caregivers also are at an increased risk of becoming socially isolated if family and friends pull back or as caregivers leave less time to spend with them. Persons with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia may pull back socially as well, increasing isolation for caregivers. If you feel you had no choice in taking on the responsibility of caregiving, the chances are greater that you will experience strain, distress, and possible resentment. Your relationship with the care recipient. Sometimes people care for another with the hope of healing a relationship. If healing does not occur, you may feel regret or discouragement. Past relationship issues can affect the care you give. If you have been estranged from the person, there can be feelings of resentment. Personality, whether you're outgoing or rather shy, tend towards optimistic or pessimistic, or you're upbeat or not. Your personality will influence how you perceive and approach life stressors. Your coping abilities, how you coped with stress in the past predicts how you will cope now. Identify your current coping strengths so that you can build on them. Physical and emotional fitness. Being physically or emotionally tired will increase the way stressors are felt and reduce your ability to cope when experiencing them. Your caregiving situation. Some caregiving situations are more stressful than others. For example, caring for a person with dementia is often more stressful than caring for somebody with physical limitations. Caregiving for someone who wanders adds to stress. Other health issues for persons or caregivers can also add to stress and responsibility. So whether support is available and accessible, are there others around to help? If there are others around, are they accessible? Do they have time? Are they able to help, and are they willing to offer help? Finding and then accepting help. Knowing what to look for, where to look for it, knowing the right questions to ask, being comfortable to ask for help, and being specific about the kind of help you need, and being open of accepting the help when it's offered are really all important factors. There are many different signs of stress to look for. Not everyone experiences stress in the same way. Some physical signs of stress include having a headache or muscle tension, having digestive problems and changes in eating pattern, sleep disorders or changes in sleep cycle, heart problems or high blood pressure, breathing, skin problems or increased sweating, teeth grinding, and sexual changes and difficulties. Some mental or emotional signs of stress include anger or irritability, depressed mood, lack of caring, worry, fear and anxiety, decreased concentration and disorganization, memory loss and confusion, difficulty making decisions, decreased ability to be flexible, and feelings of being overwhelmed. Some behavioral signs of stress include nervous habits like pacing, fidgeting, nail biting, smoking or drinking, crying, yelling, swearing, or throwing things, blaming, giving up hobbies or interests that we once enjoyed, friendships and social connections, becoming isolated. Abuse of older adults is an act or behavior by anyone which results in harm to another person's well-being or safety. Given the difficulty and stress that can accompany caregiving, even sincere and genuine caregivers can be at risk to abuse. Abuse or mistreatment can be subtle and easily overlooked or minimized. It may not be the person's intention to inflict harm of any kind and may be the result of stress and frustration. Caregivers may feel overburdened by the caregiving that they are neither wanting nor expecting. There are different types of abuse: emotional abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect. There are different triggers for abuse: the nature of the relationship, family dynamics, past relationships, power and control, and the stress placed upon family members can all have an impact on the type of abuse and the degree of abuse. It is important to recognize that the risk is there. If the person with dementia has behavioral changes, they are at a greater risk of being abused. The changes to a person's behavior often make life very difficult for caregivers. Remind yourself that the behavior is the result of the disease and it's out of the control of the individual with dementia. Learn what you can and forgive yourself. Tomorrow is another day with no mistakes in it. We're not saying that caregivers intentionally mistreat the person that they are caring for. However, we want to raise the concern that caregivers can become very stressful, and it is important to get help before it can get out of hand. Consider these questions. Is saying no to caregiving or to some aspect of caregiving okay? Are there some things that you can do, but other things that you cannot do? For example, Mary can assist her fathers with meals, medication, and housekeeping tasks, but emotionally she's unable to give her father a bath. It is important to think about, where are your boundaries? What are your other responsibilities? What are your limitations? What are the implications if you say no? And who else can take on the task? Perhaps another family member, home care, or private help. Here are some things that you can do to help reduce your stress as a caregiver. Be flexible with your expectations. You can consider other options. It is helpful to get more information. Knowledge is power. Expand your team of who can help and create that circle of support. While it is important to be proactive, don't get ahead of yourself because this will only contribute to more stress. The person you are caring for is very important, but so are you. We need to strive for a balance among all of these things so that when the person we are caring for is gone, our other important relationships remain strong. Really important, expand your care team, as I just mentioned. Things like family and friends, your physician, us at the Alzheimer's Society, community organizations and religious institutions, home care staff and private agencies. How do you feel while caregiving? All these feelings are normal. It's really how we deal with them that makes the individual difference. It is okay to be angry, lonely, sad, but remember that you are only you. There are ways to help alleviate the stress. Make a family plan, have other family members in the family agree to help you out. If you don't have any family that's able to help you out, what other organizations are able to assist, like home care? Identify feelings. Life of a caregiver can be taxing. Responsibility of providing daily care can sometimes feel overwhelming, and we can experience a variety of emotions as a result. Feelings are neither good nor bad, they just are. Caregivers often experience various overwhelming feelings. Some arise from being unable to change the situation, and others arise from feelings that there is no end to many concerns that they are experiencing. Guilt is an emotion that can be felt by the caregiver and the individual with dementia. Most caregivers feel guilty about something at some point throughout the diagnosis. Feelings of guilt may arise from feelings of anger or frustration. Guilt may arise when the caregiver considers alternative care. And the caregiver may feel guilty about caregiving for themselves or seeking their own pleasures. Some examples of values or behaviors that can cause guilt are standards that are imposed on oneself, by ourselves, or by others, isolation, and fear. Grief is one of the main emotions we cope with when experiencing loss. While grief is often associated with a death, we may also be experiencing it at other times throughout the Alzheimer's journey. We experience a loss when the person with dementia loses a specific ability, when changes occur within a relationship with the individual, when prospects of future losses, including companionship, dreams, and financial security. And this is what we call anticipatory grief, and it can affect your own health and wellness. You may grieve the loss of your dreams and plans for the future, the loss of a confidant and partner, the loss of shared roles and responsibilities, and the progressive losses in the life of the person with dementia. Signs of grief include thoughts of suicide or self harm, self isolation, unplanned weight changes, increased use of alcohol or drugs. If you do notice any of these signs in yourself or other family members, discuss them with that individual and your doctor. Stressors Stressors that can lead to grief include the diagnosis of dementia, significant loss of memory and cognitive functioning, the loss of a driver's license, and this is especially difficult if the individual with dementia was the driver for the household, incontinence, placement into a care facility, caregivers being no longer recognized by the person living with dementia, palliative care, the dying process and death, and periods of bewilderment and mourning. Ambiguous loss is the loss you feel when a person with dementia is physically here but may not be mentally or emotionally present in the way they were before. Ambiguous loss is different from the loss and grief of a death because closure is not possible and your grief cannot be fully resolved why the person with dementia is alive. Ambiguous loss complicates grief. Family and friends may not recognize your need to grieve the many losses that you're experiencing at different stages of the disease and therefore not provide you with the support that you need in your ongoing caregiving role. Talking with knowledgeable professionals or peers in a support group going through a similar experience can give you the opportunity to learn strategies for coping and living with the losses. Despite caregiving's many rewards, it can be overwhelming. One of the ways to take care of ourselves is to be aware of the stressors in our life and how they affect your health and caregiving, but more importantly, strategies on how we will manage them. Food for thought. Would you rather be cared for by someone who is patient and good humored, or by somebody who is stressed, tired, or overworked? None of us are indispensable, and we need to look after ourselves so that we can support our family members. It really is important that we exercise and we eat healthy. Setting aside some time to relax and rest is an important component that needs to be incorporated into each day. It's also really helpful to be spontaneous. Taking deep breaths, especially if we're feeling stressed, can really help reduce the stress that we are experiencing in the moment. Once you start to notice stress levels increasing, I encourage you to take 3 deep breaths and watch your stress level come down. It is helpful to know who your support team is. Who can I ask for help when I need it? Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, and in fact, it's a sign of strength. Who is your circle of support? Think about the healthcare professionals that are involved or that could be involved. Please remember us at the Alzheimer's Society and other caregivers and the support groups that are available throughout the province. Talking with knowledgeable professionals or peers in a support group going through similar experiences really does provide the opportunity to learn strategies for coping and living with the losses. Here are some quotes on advice for caregivers. You have to put the person you knew behind you and make a relationship with the person who is in front of you. My way of dealing with the illness, with the disease, is looking at the cup half full rather than half empty. I look at what my mother can do instead of what she can't do. I focus on the skills she has had and accept whatever she is able to do. If you spend all your time with the person and neglect your own life, there's going to be a void when she is gone. And it's a paradox. Something is lost, but something is not lost. So I started to look for things that were still part of my mom. My mom still has a sense of humor, and I can still share a laugh with her. She still has an emotional part of her. So I zero in on the emotion of the event because it's on a level where she gets it. She may forget my name, but she still knows who I am. We are now coming to the end of Module 3. In summary, we talked about changes in roles and how they are ongoing. We talked about the division of responsibility and how it is unfortunately not evenly shared among family members. We talked about the physical, emotional, and behavioral signs of stress and ways to reduce our stress. And of course, the importance of self-care and how it is our lifeline. On the slide are additional resource links that you can visit. They are available on our website, www.alzpei.ca, but please feel free to give us a call if you would like these resources mailed out. Our phone number is 902-628-2257. The next session of our First Link education series is Module 4, Life Has Changed, What's Next? Thank you for taking the time to participate today in our learning series.